that really in the Bible? You live in a world where everyone has an opinion about the Bible. Of what values are your beliefs if they are not clearly found in the pages of your Bible? The question we must ask is, are your opinions and beliefs really found in the Bible?
Well, hello, I'm David Freeman with Is That Really in the Bible? Today I want to talk about a subject, and the subject is this: how can I keep God's Sabbath day when my work requires me to work on Saturday? Now, understand, the Sabbath is Saturday. It's not Sunday. Sunday is the first work day of the week. What do you suppose you are supposed to be doing on the first work day of the week? Well, you guessed it. You're supposed to be working. That's what God tells you to do. But the question we're dealing with is an important one. How can I keep God's Sabbath when my work requires me to work on the Sabbath? Now, I truly believe that this is the reason for all the excuses behind not keeping the Sabbath. All of the justification, all of the proof texting, all of the scriptures, all of the books written, all of the preaching that is out there about why the Sabbath is not important, why it's been changed, why this, why that, revolves around this one issue, that it is tough to keep the Sabbath when your work requires you to work on Saturday, okay? I think that is the reason for all of the excuses out there. I mean, it's just easier not to put up a fight, okay? And it's easier to justify what you're doing. You know, well, I'm not going to keep the Sabbath because my minister said, you know, whatever kind of nonsense he's going to tell you. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of nonsense he's going to tell you that is not biblical, that is not truth, that is not in the Bible about why you shouldn't keep the Sabbath day. Well, that was nailed to the cross. That's a stupid statement. That was Mosaic, you know, as if Moses went around giving the law, which is another stupid statement. There's a lot of stupid statements out there by ministers, okay? It really is. Now, let me tell you something about keeping the Sabbath for me. It's pretty easy for me to keep the Sabbath. Not only the Sabbath, but the holy days also. The reason? I'm self-employed. And, you know, when you're self-employed, we don't allow our workers to work on the Sabbath day. We give them a break also because of the specific command that says, you nor your servants nor your maidservants shall work on this day. So we give our employees off Saturday. We give them actually we give them Saturday and Sunday off. And quite a nice place to work for, by the way, in our business. But anyway, that's U.S. Stone Incorporated. We do masonry work. But anyway, we give our workers off on that day. So, but now don't misunderstand. It's not always easy being self-employed, keeping the Sabbath. We had one contractor one time, a devout Catholic. And a devout Catholic is basically a person that doesn't believe in anything except the authority of the Pope. But anyway, you know, everything was on a time schedule, construction work. The fireplace was about to be finished Friday evening, but we just couldn't knock it out. And Ronnie told the contractor, well, we're not going to be here on Saturday. We don't work on the Sabbath. And that contractor, I mean, he turned blood red in the face because he said, look, you will be here tomorrow. You will be here on Saturday because Monday the floors are coming in. And Ronnie just said, no, we're not going to be here. And Ronnie finally got fed up. Ronnie is my partner. It's also my brother-in-law. But Ronnie finally just said, look, we're not going to be here. And he told our guys, pack up, go home. Just load up the truck and go. And the contractor said, well, what are you doing? He said, we're leaving. We told you we're not going to be here tomorrow. And find someone else to do your work. And boy, did he do a complete 180. He said, wait a minute, no, let's work this out. You know, we'll get along and okay. So he did a complete, but sometimes you got to stand your ground, okay? Sometimes you got to stand your ground. Another time, the Day of Atonement, which is a holy day that we keep, told the contractor, we're not going to be here. Ronnie told the contractor, we're not going to be here. It's the Day of Atonement. What kind of nutty religion do you have? What kind of Jewish nonsense? I've never heard of the Day of Atonement. Of course, the Day of Atonement, the Bible does say, if you work on that day, you shall surely be put to death. Anyone that does any work on this day, Day of Atonement, because of the seriousness of the issue, the atoning work of Jesus Christ. But you probably don't even know what I'm talking about because you've been brainwashed by 40 years of churchianity. And you've never heard anything about the holy days of God, or the Day of Atonement, or the Feast of Tabernacles, or the last great day, or the days of unleavened bread, or the Passover. You've just been brainwashed by mainstream churchianity. You go to church, you drill a hole in your head, you pop a funnel in there, and you pour in mainstream churchianity. Well, you're going to answer to God for mainstream churchianity. Okay. So why does God want you to keep His Sabbath? Well, because He loves you. How about that one? Because He loves you. All commandments are for our benefits, don't you know? Our commandment keeping does very little for God. It's not like we earned salvation. It's not like we got brownie points that, well, okay, I did this, I did. No, that's not what the commandment keeping is all about. Jesus put it like this in Luke 17 and verse 10. So likewise you, when you shall have done all these things which are commanded of you, notice they are commanded of you, say, we are unprofitable servants. Wow, unprofitable? Yeah, we hadn't earned our salvation. We have done that which was our duty to do. You see, commandment keeping is about duty. It's your duty to make your life work. You don't want to be a buffoon with your life not working, and that's why God gives us His 10 commandments, so that your life will work. It's a no-brainer. It's not hard to understand. God loves you enough to give you His law, the 10 commandments, to make your life work. But you don't, it's your duty, okay? It's your duty to make your life work because you don't want to end up being a buffoon with your life not working. Okay, now what is the Sabbath day? What's the 4th commandment? Did you know that? It is the 4th commandment. Exodus 31 and verse 15. 6 days shall work be done, but in the 7th is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever does any work in that on the Sabbath day shall surely be put to death. So you've got 6 days to do your work. Okay, you can count to 6, can you not? 6 days to do your work. You know, you didn't have to tell the children of Israel who were slaves in Egypt for hundreds of years, who worked 7 days a week making bricks. You didn't have to beg. You didn't have to say. Well, they didn't say when God reinstituted His Sabbath day. They didn't say, "Oh boy, this is such a burden. Oh, I gotta take a break. You know, this is unlawful. You know, I'm not under the law. You know." They didn't say any stupidity, any kind of asinine ideas like that because they had been working for hundreds of years as slaves 7 days a week. And when God reinstituted His Sabbath day, they were grateful to God that they could take a break on the 7th day. What are you supposed to be doing on the first work day of the week, which is Sunday? Well, Exodus 20 and verse 9 says, 6 days shall you labor and do all your work. What is the first work day of the week? Well, look it up for yourself in a dictionary. Look up the word Sunday, and you will find that it's the day that most people go to church on. That's a true statement, but it also says it's the first day of the week. Okay? You are supposed to be working 6 days a week, not 4, not 5, but 6 days a week. People overlook this first part of this commandment. Okay? 6 days shall you labor. Get off your butt and go to work. That's what I'm saying. 6 days. Okay. Exodus 31 verse 15. But in the 7th is the Sabbath of the rest, holy to the Lord. What is the 7th day of the week? Look it up in the dictionary. It will tell you the 7th day of the week is Saturday. Okay? It's a Sabbath rest, holy to the Lord. Okay? It's holy. It's set apart. It's been sanctified by God. It's a special day. Whosoever does any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Now, why put to death? That sounds harsh. Why would God say this? Why would God say this? Well, He says this about all the 10 commandments, does He not? The wages of sin, take your pick, 1 through 10, is death. Okay? What is sin? 1 John 3:4, sin is the breaking of God's law, the Ten Commandments. And the wages of sin for all of them is death. Okay? What was the wages of sin for committing adultery? Death. So I can just hear someone say, okay, so you believe in killing people for breaking the Sabbath? No, I don't believe in killing people for breaking the Sabbath any more than I believe in killing people for committing adultery. How many people would we have to put to death if we killed people for committing adultery and breaking the Sabbath? Probably 95% of the earth's population we'd have to put to death. Okay, my point is we do not live under a theocracy today. Under a theocracy, the rule of God from the top down, yeah, you could be put to death under witnesses. In other words, you had to have more than one witness. You couldn't just have one person say, I saw him doing something. I saw him committing adultery. I saw him breaking the Sabbath. But no, you had to have more than one witness. Under witnesses, you could be put to death. Okay, so we don't live under a theocracy today. We live under man's government and laws. And some of those laws still jive with the Bible. If you commit murder, there's a slim possibility you could be killed, put to death. Murdered also, killed also, electric chair or whatever, which is a good thing. Okay, but not many of our laws jive with the Bible today because that was a theocracy, and we're not under a theocracy today. We're under man's government, which is really lackadaisical. It's not very poignant. It's not very strict. You can get by with anything, even killing people. Yes, you can. All right, because of our corrupt justice system. Now, it's hard to keep the Sabbath in a Sabbath-breaking world. Okay, it really is. Our society is geared up for Sabbath breaking. Everything occurs on Saturday. Greatest shopping day. A lot of sporting events, okay? And so it's hard to keep the Sabbath in a Sabbath-breaking world, okay? If I tell my boss I want off from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset, he'll fire me. You ever thought about the fact that you could get a better job? That the reason you could be fired is to find a better job, get a better job? Do you love your job? Or do you hate your job? Do you realize God is working behind the scenes, okay? Now, okay, this Sabbath thing, oh boy, if I tell my boss, okay, listen to me closely. You're coming to a point very quickly, we're already there. We're at your work business. If you don't wave the rainbow flag, you could get fired. If you don't join us, if you don't put that LGBT sticker on your forehead or on your coat or whatever, if you don't go along with us, you could be fired, okay? So don't think this Sabbath issue is a big issue. There are other nonsensical issues that are out there also. Okay. Now I want to go through some real live examples of trying to keep the Sabbath and what it takes to keep the Sabbath in a world that requires you to break the Sabbath or to keep when your work requires you to keep the Sabbath. Now, number one, you're going to have to tell your boss. Okay? You're just going to have to tell your boss. You're just going to have to say, boss man, look, I've come to a conviction that I shouldn't be working on Sabbath day, which is Saturday. And can you work this out for me? Okay, you're going to have to tell your boss. Now, in small companies, they may not tolerate that very well. But the point is, what kind of worker are you? If you are valuable to your company, they will want to hold on to you. Just go through the average drive-through fast food place window, whatever. Why does it take now 15 minutes to get your food, whereas 10 years ago it only took 5 minutes to drive through the drive-through window and get your food? Okay, that's how poorly the work generation is today. They're not thinking. They don't give a rat's behind about whether they've got any responsibility. They don't care about you, okay? That's the point. They don't care about the customer, and that's why the service is so sorry. That's why it takes 15 minutes to drive through a fast food place to get your food, okay? Now, big companies, they're a little bit more aware of legal rights, religious freedom, okay, a little bit more aware, but it's not the first time they've been through this rodeo either, or someone coming up and saying, I can't work on Saturday. It's not the first time. One minister told me about going to his boss and saying, look, I'm not going to be working. He was an insurance salesman. He said, I'm not going to be working on the Sabbath anymore. And the boss said, the owner of the company said, well, if you're not going to be working, I'm not going to work. And they both started taking off on Saturday. That's a beautiful example. My personal example is, now I told you I've been self-employed for the biggest part of my life, but at one period of my life, I worked at Sales Knitting for 3 months, which was a factory. I had 2 great bosses, Abe and Judy. And I told them I didn't work on, Saturday. And they worked for 5 hours on Saturday. And they said, here's what we'll do. You work an hour overtime each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we'll let you off on Saturday. And so it worked out great. But there came a time when they were busy. And they said, and Abe said, now, David, you might have to come in on Saturday. And Judy, my other boss, took up for me. I didn't even ask. She said, well, he keeps the Sabbath. He can't come in on Saturday. So this was another way of God's deliverance, I didn't even have to say anything. My boss, Judy, stood up for me and said, he can't do that. And Abe just sort of shook his head and said, okay, all right. That's it. It's amazing how God can come through for you. Another example of keeping the Sabbath, the desire to keep it and dealing with your boss and telling them. My friend Kelly, who's in the ministry, his place of business, he was an important worker there, and his place of business, he told his place of business, I can't work on Saturday. And so like most businesses, they get behind and they're way behind. They said, look, you're going to have to come in on Saturday to work on the Sabbath. So he did. I think he might have did it once or twice, and it just ripped his conscience out of him. I mean, he couldn't deal with it. He just couldn't deal with it. He knew he shouldn't be doing it. He knew it was wrong, and he got his resignation together, and he said, look, I can't do this anymore. I know we're behind. I know you're requiring me to work on Saturday, but I got to turn in my resignation because I can't do it anymore. And he said, hold on. He was an extremely valuable worker. They said, we don't want you to leave. We don't want you to resign. We will work it out, and from this point forward, you never, ever have to worry about working on the Sabbath again. Okay, beautiful example. Another example was an elderly man I knew named Bob. He was in the military, and he was getting close to retirement. And he held a hard line. He came into a conviction about the Sabbath. He started keeping the Sabbath, and he lost his pension. He lost his retirement. He lost a lot because he was close to retirement in the military, and he became bitter toward God because of he felt like, okay, since I'm doing this for God, God ought to come through for me in a better way than he did. Okay, maybe he didn't have enough faith, I don't know, but I did see him become bitter toward God because God didn't work it out the way he thought God should work it out. So you want to be aware of that. If it's going to require, he became bitter toward God, in his latter days. So this was not good. Another story is a person who was also close to about 2 years retirement, and he would get a great retirement. His job required him to work, and he continued to work. He continued to work until retirement. Now, I didn't say he was 20 years away from retirement. I said he was a couple years or less away from retirement. Okay. What did he do? Did he want to work? No. Did he hate to work? No. I mean, yes, he hated to work on the Sabbath. Was his conscience bothering him? Probably so, very much so. But he depended on God's grace to forgive him for those years. Now, I know a lot of times a lot of people would say, well, that's just not right. You're supposed to stick to your guns and do what's right. Okay, I hear you. I understand what you're saying. And to some degree, I agree with you. But I'm just saying, if your decision is going to cause you to be bitter toward God, where you don't like the way God works it out, I don't know. You need to take that into consideration, that bitterness, The Sabbath breaking is not, well, sometimes we think it's the worst sin of all. I don't know why we think that. It's not the worst sin. It's just a sin, okay, for breaking the Sabbath. But, you know, sometimes we do have to depend on God's grace. And this is what this particular person did. But I'm giving you these examples. I've given you 4 or 5 examples of real life Sabbath keeping and the desire to obey God's Sabbath. I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be easy, but you do have to stand up for your convictions. So why keep the Sabbath besides God says so, which is the 4th commandment? Okay. Well, number 1, you need a break. Okay. 8 signs that you need a break. Number 1, you're always trying to multitask, you know, and a multitasker is a person that does a lot of things poorly. You know, they don't do anything good. They just do a lot of things poorly. Okay. Number 2, you're exhausted and overwhelmed. 8 signs that you need a break. You need a Sabbath. Number 3, you have to schedule things weeks in advance. Okay. 8 signs you need a break. 4, you have a hard time focusing and enjoying the moment. Ooh, that one hits hard on me. You have a hard time focusing and enjoying the moment. I like the moment after it's passed. I can reminisce and think about, we did this, we did that. But I do have a hard time enjoying the moment. Okay, 8 signs you need a break. Number 5, you never take off. How about that one? You work 7 days a week. What are you trying to do? Kill yourself? You're going to die. No need to die more quickly than you ought to. But if you're working 7 days a week, you have got a problem, a serious problem, okay? You've got a God, a false God. And there's 3 false gods: belly God, time God, and money God. Money God, you're not going to tell me how to spend my money. You're not going to tell me I got a tithe. I'm not giving a dime to anybody. Okay. Belly God, you're not going to tell me what I can and cannot eat. That's an altar that we worship at. Okay, time God, which includes the Sabbath day. You're not going to tell me I got to take off and keep the Sabbath. My time is my time, and I'll work 7 days a week. I'll work 8 days a week if I have to. The Beatles had a song called 8 Days a Week, you know. They added an extra day to it, I guess. Okay. Who needs that, by the way? Oh, number 6. Okay, 8 signs you need a break. Number 6, you feel out of balance. You're just not balanced in your life, okay? Number 7, you feel guilty a lot of the times. Good reason, probably a good reason you're feeling guilty. You're not spending enough time with your wife. You're not spending enough time with your children, or whatever. Okay, number 8, you're filled with calendars. You fill your calendars with things you don't even want to do. Yeah, can you relate to that one? I don't even want to do these things, and I got my calendar full of things I don't really want to do. Don't have the energy to do. Could be that you're getting old, by the way. That's another point why you should take a break. Okay, the next one, memorial of creation. The Sabbath is a memorial of creation. Genesis 2 and verse 1. Thus the heavens and earth were finished, and the host of them. And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it. That means set it apart, because that in it he had rested from all his work which he created and made. You know, getting closer to creation is so very important. It's getting outside, getting close to God, studying the birds, studying whatever creation. This is so important. And it also says about the Sabbath, God rested. Why did God rest? Did he need to rest? No. Why was Jesus baptized? Did he need to be baptized? No. He did it for our example. God rested and kept the Sabbath for our example. Jesus was baptized for our example. Okay. What can we do on the Sabbath day? Well, you can rest. The first thing you're commanded to do is rest. That doesn't mean you stay in bed all day and get bed sores, okay? There's a lot of things you can do on the Sabbath. Get close to creation. You can make love on the Sabbath to your wife. You know, God created man on the 6th day. On the 7th day, he gave him a rest. What does that tell you? Well, that's pretty cool if you ask me. What would you not do on the Sabbath? Well, I stay away from secular events. I don't care about NASCAR race. I don't care about football, baseball. I'm not a sports fanatic. It drives me crazy to go into these bars or Applebee's where they have 24/7. They're interviewing some sports hero. I don't give a rat's about this sports hero. As far as I'm concerned, they could fire them all and pay school teachers more. Well, that's questionable too. It depends on what they're teaching, school teachers. But it's just our whole society is out of whack how much these people make. Okay. But my point is, avoid anything that draws you away from God. And that's why I say it's important to get close to creation. Avoid anything on the Sabbath that draws you away from God and the importance of creation. One of the things that God is asking you is, how can I make you a better person? All of God's laws are about that question. How can I make that person a better person? How can I embetter their lives? How can I make their lives work? Deuteronomy 32 and verse 47, after the giving of the law, the Bible says, "For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life." Talking about the law of God, it's your life. How can I make you a better person? In the Old Testament, again and again, you read about the Sabbath day. 137 times the word Sabbath is found in the Bible. In the New Testament, people will take 7 verses and try to dismiss all of these other verses about the Sabbath. One of these 7 verses is in the New Testament is, "I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day." So that means we should go to church on Sunday. Dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. How can I make you a better person is what God is asking. Isaiah 58 and verse 13. "If you turn away your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, the holy of the Lord honorable, and shall honor him, not doing your own ways, nor finding your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in the Lord, and I will cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth, and I will feed you with the heritage of Jacob, your father, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken it." Man, that is powerful. I'm going to cause you to ride upon the high places of the earth. God is saying, how can I make you a better person? Jesus said in Mark 2 and verse 27, and he said to them, "The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath." I can't think of a more powerful statement. People, God is saying, people, look, man, I have made the Sabbath for you because I want to make your life better. I want to make you a better person. I'm David Freeman, and I've just told you what's really in your Bible. Before I close out, I almost forgot this. 3 things I want to offer you. What would Jesus do on the weekend? You need this information. 100 facts on the Sabbath question. I'll send that free of charge. Roman Catholic and Protestant confessions about Sunday. You need these 3 pieces of information, and you will be encouraged to learn more about the Sabbath that you should be keeping today.